All right, we are live, episode 49 of the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break. I have been so excited, I'm telling you, for the last several weeks, knowing that I was going to be chatting with my guest today. I have been aware of Mark Schulman for many years and been a fan. And I remember watching over and over on YouTube in 2012, I think it was, when the Gretsch Brooklyn series were introduced, and watching you play those new to you drums in your studio. And I was just blown away at how ridiculous they sounded, how big and warm and fat they sounded. But more importantly, I was so inspired to go home and practice because of what I saw you play, the sound and just the touch and the groove. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know who my guest is today, he's an incredible drummer, author, keynote speaker. Oh man, so I'm getting excited here. As session drummer, live drummer, and I read his unbelievable book called "Conquering Life's Stage Fright: 3 Steps to Top Performance." While I was out on the road in 2018, I was out on the road for about a month or so solid, and it really helped me get through some of those tough times that you have of self-doubt and getting inside and being in your own head. So I've been so incredibly excited to be able to sit down and pick your brain and let everybody here know of your journey. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Mark Schulman. Thank you.
Now that was an intro.
It was kind of long-winded. I apologize, and I was just so excited looking at the background here that you have. That's just phenomenal. What tour was that? Did you say with Pink?
I believe this was the Funhouse tour, which is 12 years ago. Wow, 2009. Believe it or not. I've been playing with Pink since 2006.
Wow.
So what does that make it? 15 years?
That's unheard of, right?
That's well, I mean, she's amazing. I'm so grateful. Couldn't be working with an artist who is more authentic, more kinder to people, and just the sheer amount of talent. It's humbling, you know. I feel like a mere mortal. I'm on the ground watching her doing death-defying stunts and singing live, going, "Wow, I'm safe down here." I mean, she's really amazing.
Yeah, she absolutely
and not to mention the family on the road. It's just one big. We are truly a family, and it's going to be so wonderful to eventually get back into live mode again, whenever that happens.
I know. It's definitely different for large touring acts like Pink, and so it could be a little while before you get out. But let's hope it's sooner than later, and let's hope that you come to Toronto, because I would absolutely love to see that in person, man. I'm telling you, she's incredible. And what a band, though. Like, it's just unbelievable from what I've seen on recordings and videos, man. Just crazy.
Wow. Well, we did some amazing shows in Toronto on the last tour, so I'd love to come back. It's one of my favorite cities. Some serious food in that city, man. Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
In addition to great people, of course, but
it's a great city, and we're definitely hurting with this situation. But so I wanted to ask you, what have you been doing for the last 14 months, 12 months, 13 months, something like that, since everything?
I've been sleeping. No.
I don't believe that.
I've been working harder than ever, actually. One of the things I talk about, I am a keynote speaker, and I was set up to do, literally, I had, in the months of March and April, 19 speaking gigs pulled out from under me, and I was like freaking out and really resisting it. Come to realize that it's really about how we deal with change. Do we embrace it or resist it? And I was really resisting it because I'd never done what I call my rock show disguised as a keynote. I'd never done it virtually, right?
Right.
So I was resisting it. Then I embraced it. The moment I started to embrace it, I got really creative. And then I set up this sort of virtual. Fortunately, my wife we had just converted our garage and created this photo studio for my wife. So I have this amazing space, this huge green screen. And then I just needed to learn about lighting and cameras. I work with a tech, and I've been working with all these companies and doing virtual presentations, and it's been going great. I've been doing some sessions. I've been doing a lot of writing. I'm almost, we're about 75, 80% done with the next book, which I'm co-writing with one of the most brilliant people on the planet, Dr. Jim Samuels, who's the mentor of my life. And been making really good use of my time, the best I can to be of service. I did a benefit for a friend of mine that has stage 4 colon cancer online, raised $30,000 for him just by my friends donating videos and just advertising it. I've been doing a lot of videos and putting out my newsletter and just trying to be of service as much as I can be during this to give people formulas and inspiration and information. And I just actually put out a new newsletter today.
I got that.
And with yet another video, because I love making videos just with different concepts that can be very helpful for people. I just believe it's that sort of the next level of my calling in addition to drumming. So I use the connections and for lack of a better term, celebrity, to leverage my ability to then go out and be of service to relay, rock and roll stories and rock and roll experiences and content to corporate audiences and collegiate audiences. And I sometimes obviously do pro bono gigs as well. So I just do whatever I can. I love what I do. And of course, my family. I mean, my daughter's 11. She's nearly 5 feet tall. She's got her 4th degree brown belt in martial arts. And my wife just wrote her first full-length screenplay. And we've been, my family is used to being me being gone half the time. So this was a shocker for all of us because all of a sudden, daddy's around the whole time. So I go to the studio, my recording studio, a couple days a week just to get out of the house, to give them some space because my daughter's been on Zoom and you know what it's like. I mean, the whole world got flipped upside down and it was just really a matter of how you navigate that change. So I've made a conscious effort to navigate it the most gracefully I can and be of service as much as I can. Oh, I've given some lessons and I do some coaching still. So I'm always doing something. I'm certainly not a guy that stays idle. That's for sure.
Yeah. And when you said that you were sleeping, I didn't buy that for a second.
Yeah, that was the biggest joke on the block. I know I sleep well, but I don't sleep a lot.
It's fun.
There's always something cool to do, man. Even if it's like watching The Flash with my daughter because we're addicted to The Flash on Netflix. It's like, but the family time, we got a puppy. Oh. My wife's really heavily allergic to dogs. So we found like the 2 dogs she's not allergic to are Wheaten Terriers and Poodles. So we got a Woodle, which is like a Wheaten Terrier Poodle combined. We got a bearded dragon. So we got like this 18-inch dragon that, it's just like the coolest lizard. So yeah, man, all kind of crazy stuff, right?
That is incredible here. Do you have audio? Do you hear me okay?
I hear you now. Yeah, you dropped out for a second, but now you're good.
I have no audio right now at this point. Let me just double check something.
I do hear you.
I never get. Do you hear me at all?
Yeah, you're very delayed now.
I'm very delayed, all right. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the video is way behind the audio.
How are we now?
That's better. Yes.
Yes. Well, we have a bunch of kids at home. Well, if they're in their 20s, but our kids are home today, so that means the internet is being used in a huge way. When did music and drumming start for you, Mark? I want to go back to the beginning.
Well, man, as the story goes, I saw like a repeat of the Beatles on Ed Sullivan when I was young. And I'm like, I saw John and Paul and George and was like, oh my God. Then I saw Ringo and something resonated deep inside. And then I saw the Screaming Girls and I was like, I want that. And then, of course, I wanted to play drums and my mom's drums are too loud. Can't you play a nice instrument like your brother Randy, who plays violin? So I used to go to his lessons. My godfather, my Uncle Ben, used to teach him. And then one day I saw this what looked like a big violin standing in the corner. It was a cello. And I said, can I play that? So I started playing cello. Then I would get drum lessons at the end of every cello lesson. And I sat at a set of drums at 5 years old and I could play. I wasn't a prodigy, but I just knew what to do. And finally, my parents couldn't deny my passion any longer. At 9 years old, they got me my first drum set, started playing in bands, and that was it, dude. Couldn't stop me from there. It was just, I feel so grateful because I believe drums chose me. The interest was there organically, and it was just up to me to develop it and nurture it and practice, develop my capability. And I failed a really big audition, and that was the impetus for writing the book. That was the story of the book, when I got to audition for Bad English in my 20s, and I had really bad stage fright, and I was rushing. And so I spent 2 years correcting my time and developing my internal sense of time, and I'm a freak for meter now. And then I spent the rest of my life transferring my fear into confidence, and did a lot of inner work, and I studied a lot of philosophy, and then it was then I just started doing a bunch of drumming clinics. And it was actually Dom Famularo that said, I was doing a drum clinic, and this guy came up to me and asked if I could go speak to his corporation, and because he was there with his kid, and he said, I only got $7,000. I hope that's enough. And you're thinking, we're making $500 for a drum clinic. So ever since then, in the back of my head, I thought I could speak for corporations, because it's just a matter of understanding their world and leveraging what I already know. And it's basically like I just do a drum clinic for corporations, but I do it with content that is very applicable to them, and it's very well rehearsed and very just slicker. But I still will occasionally do a drum clinic, So drummers really are the coolest people on the planet. I mean, all of my success is born of the foundation of being the drummer, and the drummers are like the shepherd of the band, man. We're like the foundation. And when I'm on the road, I just naturally want to make sure everybody else is taken care of, and, let everybody else get on the bus first. I mean, drummers really are, we're a community. We're so communal. And I think that's what sets us apart from the other instruments. You'll still get 100 drummers at a drum clinic. You won't get that at a guitar clinic or a bass clinic or a keyboard clinic. We are the strength and the glue that holds everything together.
Absolutely right. It is very much a communal, as you said. I remember Dom saying the very same thing at a clinic that I attended. He's like, a drummer will say, "Can you show me that?" And Dom was like, "Let me break it down for you. It's
right.
A flat paradiddle. It's this." And we're so excited. And I love his sessions channel. And you've been on.
Yeah, I was a guest. It was so great.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah,
and Dom
they are doing a real service to the world. It's wonderful.
And not just speaking with
and
drummers, but
Jules created it. I mean, all of them. They're just so wonderful. And yeah, it's wonderful.
It absolutely is. So what was the early playing like for you with people? What kind of, were you playing pop music? Were you playing a variety of different music early on?
I've always loved all different styles of music. So yes, I had a pretty well-rounded palette for music, and I just worked on developing my vocabulary. I studied with Freddie Gruber when I was about 17.
Wow.
Before that, I studied with Henry Belson, Louis' brother, when I was a kid. And I constantly played in bands. So I think one of my big points of learning was playing in bands, as well as taking lessons. But I actually learned how to read music by playing cello. So a lot of my drumming was self-taught, but by having the experience and the understanding and the empathy of playing in bands for all that time, you learn to have what I call big ears. And we were playing in a bar mitzvah wedding band from the age of 14. So I was playing everything from like jazz standards to, pop songs to Zeppelin to, Latin, like bossa novas and stuff. And then, of course, I got into my Zappa phase, and I learned Black Page, and I got really heady about it. So I really tried to have as much breadth of knowledge and understanding. And I always tell my students, find what you like in music, not what you don't like. Because if you find what you like, then you are more prone to learn from the experience rather than rejecting it. So I really look for what I like in all styles of music and all players. And I'm just as much of a fan and a student as anybody else. I hear a great drummer. I hear a great 10-year-old Japanese girl drummer. I'll go, holy moly. and I'll start like trying to steal her chops, you know?
What was the Freddie Gruber experience like with you? Because he's a bit of a mystical figure for many of us. Obviously, me being from Canada, we didn't have direct contact with
Yeah.
Freddie, but we've heard of Freddie. And I have a good friend, Marty Deller, who was Neil Peart's, one of his oldest friends, and he would tell me that Neil's going to New York to study with Freddie, and then they were going to Freddie's place in Los Angeles. But I have no idea what Freddie's method was all about. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Freddie was so brilliant at breaking down technique, and he was Buddy Rich's best friend. So a lot of it, I think, was born of him just studying Buddy over all the years, because Buddy was touched by God. He was just this natural gift, this talent. And actually, my dear friend Bruce Becker, who I've known since elementary school, is the one that turned me on to Freddie. And Bruce has taken Freddie's teachings to another level. So he's actually expanded and evolved what we all learned from Freddie. Bruce studied with Freddie for like 25 years. I only studied for a few years. But enough to get set up. Freddie set me up. And he was just so analytical and so brilliant about how he would break it down. And it was very slow moving. So now Bruce is the next level of Freddie. So I still study with Bruce when I occasionally take the drum lesson. I should do it a lot more. I'd love to. It's more about a timing issue. But Freddie was really special. And, you know, he was teaching all these amazing drummers, and you know, he ended up teaching Weckel, and of course Neil Peart and Steve Smith worked with him, and Joey Heredia worked with him, and all these different people. And now Bruce has taken over the throne. So Bruce, David Garibaldi works with Bruce, and some other high level guys. Right. And so it is really a very wonderful and unique approach to breaking things down, and also the understanding of reading complexity and interpretation of charts. I mean, it really covers the gamut. So anybody listening, I would really check out Bruce Becker, because Bruce really is like the consummate teacher that has taken all of Freddie's teachings and expanded upon them. And he's a dear friend, but he's just so gifted at what he does. And I love to, support people for their gifts.
I love his videos from the kitchen. He will demonstrate a technical exercise from the kitchen, and the sticks look like they float in his hand. It's just...
They do. They literally do. I mean, I'll never forget when I came back to study with Freddie later. I moved to Portland, Oregon, came back. I was warming up for my lesson, and from the other room on a practice pad, Freddie goes, "Hey, Mark, you're choking the stick. I can hear it from here." I'm like, are you crazy? Like he that's how observant and how in tune he was with every nuance. And, as I said, Bruce has inherited that pulpit because he's the same way. But Freddie was, a challenging personality sometimes. I adored him, and he was always nothing but kind to me, but challenging. Bruce doesn't have all of the idiosyncratic challenging personality nuances that Freddie had. Bruce is a pretty balanced dude.
And he has his kids have some great musical talent. I see his son just naming off notes from the chords, and like.
Or Thomas is like a savant on piano. He's really amazing. It's really amazing.
Unbelievable. So let's talk a little bit about your musical journey from playing in the bar mitzvah band and playing as a teenager to wanting to move into the realm of being a professional drummer. First of all, was it always in your heart and in your mind that was all you were going to do, or did you have a plan B?
No, that was all I was going to do. My philosophy is, if you have something to fall back on, you'll fall back. And my feeling is I'd rather fall forward.
Oh,
I also know that you really need to be myopic and extremely focused to have achieved the level of success that the great drummers have achieved. And so I knew that I needed the focus. And I came from a family of professors, my parents were college professors. The last thing they wanted was a damn drummer. But then when they started seeing the success, they realized, well, the focus really does matter. And they believed in me. They were always so incredibly supportive for not understanding and embracing, for not really being musicians. They were incredibly supportive. I mean, my room was next to theirs. I was practicing hours a day on my first Slingerland 1938 Slingerland Radio King kit they got me when I was 9 to, on up. And they were so tolerant. So I give them so much credit, and I adore them so much for that. And again, playing in bands was so critical. So that's all I saw. That was it for me. As a matter of fact, I got my first road gig with Brenda Russell when I was 26. And that was actually through another drummer, Armin Grimaldi, who had recommended me. And I didn't have to audition. I just needed to keep the gig. But I thought I was going to be, by the time I was 20, I was going to be on the road. Some people start really early. To me, 26 was late, although obviously it was what it was. But it was an incredible experience. And from there, I just kept on touring, and it just got better and better. And I played with some amazing artists, and one very challenging artist whose name I won't mention, but everybody else has been absolutely fantastic. And I've had this really steady flow. And I've even got to play with like Frank Mbali, and I did some smooth jazz gigs. But of course, I played like with Foreigner and Stevie Nicks and Sheryl Crow and Billy Idol and Simple Minds and Velvet Revolver and Cher and Pink. And I did my share of sessions, although I was never as immersed in the session scene in LA as I wanted to be. But I was always touring. I was really touring that much that I didn't really have the time to establish myself. I'll never forget, like Kenny Aronoff was so cool. He turned me on to a Don Was session that he had double booked himself. And it was so amazing because Don cut everything live, and I was playing with Mark Goldenberg and Bob Glaub on bass, and we were doing it live. And then he called me again for another session. I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then he called me again and I couldn't do it. And he called me one more time. I couldn't do it. I was busy. Then he stopped calling. But when you're on the road, we should all be so, I always feel so grateful to have to juggle opportunities, even on the road with Pink. I mean, in 2019, I did 50 corporate speaking gigs in a half a year of touring, and juggling all that stuff alone was amazing, to have the opportunity and I was turning down speaking gigs, which nobody wants to turn down gigs, but playing with Pink, that's the greatest thing in the world. So that always takes priority.
That's unbelievable. We have Dinah Murphy Gretsch has tuned in here saying she's enjoying this conversation. I wanted to thank her for connecting you and
Dinah, I love you. Dinah is actually a very, very dear friend, like for real. Like we've hung out a lot. We always set aside a bunch of time at the shows, and I hang out with her and Fred. I mean, I feel like literally like a member of the Gretsch family. They have just been so extraordinary to me in every way. And I cannot give more love to you, Dinah, for even hooking this up. I was lazy. I should have done this months ago, and I lost the email, and my apologies for that. But I will say, Gretsch really is a family. Not only, and as a kid, it's so funny because when I finally started playing Gretsch, it was always my dream to play Gretsch, but I just went through different drum companies. When I finally started playing Gretsch, it was like, I'm home. And I've been there ever since 2002. So it's 19 years now. It is so much about relationships when you have endorsements. I mean, you obviously, most importantly, you want to play something you believe in. And, I could tell everybody, play Gretsch drums because they're the best. I can only honestly say they're the best for me. Because when I sit down at Gretsch, it's like home. It's like my favorite food's Mexican. I can tell you, you gotta love Mexican, but if you don't like Mexican food, you don't like Mexican food. I can't talk you into liking it. So if you don't feel comfortable playing Gretsch, I'm not gonna try to talk you into it, but I will say they're the best made drums. They're the easiest to tune. They feel the best on I've never gotten more compliments from sound people. As a matter of fact, when I was doing a lot of sessions in the 90s when I was touring, and I didn't even bother having my own kit stored with any tech. I would just tell the producers, hire whatever kit out you want. And 80, 90% of the time, they were Gretsch kits. Matter of fact, I started using all of Porcaro's old Gretsch kits that JMO had on most of the sessions. And it was really special. And I'll never forget the very, very famous drummer, whose name I will not mention, did a clinic for another drum company. And he was talking about the drums. He said, oh, but in the studio, of course, I use Gretsch. Because there is a magic, there's just a depth, there is a formula, and the way that the microphones pick up, when a drum is a great drum and it's in round, you could tune it any way. You put a mic on it, it sounds great. You shouldn't have to do a lot. You shouldn't really have to do anything. I mean, you could change the tuning based on your preference or based on the producer's preference or the artist's preference, but that's what Gretsch drums are. Gretsch drums are the lowest maintenance drums as far as getting tone. And I played all the series of Gretsch drums. On the last Ping tour, I played the Broadcaster kit with single lugs in the middle with long rods because I wanted it to look really old school. And even the Renown series are so great because whenever I did clinics, I was doing I probably have done thousands of clinics, and most of the time I was playing on Renown kits. Even a few of the times I would literally be unboxing them. I'd unbox them, tune them up, put them up, boom, done. That's a great instrument. What else can you say? It's a great instrument.
It really is a family feeling for me as well. As of April 1st, I signed direct to Gretsch USA as an artist, and I've been a Canadian artist.
Congratulations!
But my face hurt for a couple of days, and my wife would turn to me and she'd say, I'm so proud of you. She goes, I'm so happy. She goes, she knew how much it meant for me to be part of, Gretsch USA. And anyways, I want to thank everybody at Gretsch. They do make the best drums from all of this series. It is a feel thing. And I was speaking with Miles Miller from Sturgill Simpson's band last week, and we were talking about, he said, I don't really have to tune my drums in between gigs. I might tweak a lug here or there, and I don't touch a thing, and I hit like a beast. You do hit like a beast. Gary Grimm is my drum tech, and Gary's been Erskine's tech, Steve Gadd's tech, Steve Jordan's tech. He's like he was Porcaro's last tech, the greatest tech on the planet. And we actually have arguments because I will keep a snare drum head on for 2 months. He's like, let's change the head. No, don't change the head. It's perfect. But then again, I always acquiesce to him because the way I tell him, I say, Gary, they're your drums. I'm just here to play them. Because because he's so good and so meticulous that, why mess with perfection? But I love to leave the heads on as long as I can because they sound better and better and better until they die. Right. They do. Now I read something. And then in town, I always use Mike Fasano is my lovely dear friend. I think Mike was going to tune into this. Yeah. He's just absolutely amazing tech. And I've been so fortunate. I work with such incredible people, and I never take it for granted. Oh, Jerry Johnson's also an amazing tech that I work with in town. Jerry's great. But I never take it for granted the gift of talent that we all have, that we all can give to each other. And I can only hope that I am making everybody else's life as easy as they are making mine when I'm performing, when I'm on stage, when I'm doing a session. My philosophy truly is that I am here to be of service. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. When I'm on stage with Pink, I'm there to be of service to Pink, to the band, to the dancers, to the crew, to the audience. When I'm doing a session, I want to be totally of service. I want to make the engineer look and sound great. I want to make the producers look and sound great, make the artists so happy, because I'm pretty low maintenance. If everybody else around me is happy, I'm happy. So I just hope that I make everybody else's life as easy as they make mine when I'm working with this quality of people and playing this quality of instrument. I have so much gratitude. I'm just immersed in gratitude all the time. It's sort of my go-to.
gratitude and service,
That's wonderful. How did the Pink gig come about for you, Mark?
Well, I was playing with Cher for many years. The story behind Cher is kind of funny. Without going into too much detail, I auditioned for Cher 3 times, probably in the Guinness Book of World Records for the person who auditioned for Cher most. Finally got it on the 3rd go around, and I played with Cher for many, many years. And then Cher's manager started managing Pink, and we went to some of the shows. And like, this gal is like off. Like, who is this gal? She's like the most amazing singer, and she's doing this crazy stuff even before our first tour. So her old drummer double booked himself and couldn't do a couple of weeks. They were doing just some clubs to set up her first big tour in 2006, the I'm Not Dead tour. And the manager put me into sub, and by the end of the 2 weeks, we kind of fell in love, me and Pink and everybody else, and they offered me the gig, and the rest is history. I've been with her ever since. So it just worked out really well. I think also that she was going in a different direction. I mean, she's got this R&B soul, but she's kind of a rock pop artist. And her old drummer was an amazing drummer, just more R&B. And I think she was looking for somebody who had a little bit more of a rock edge. And, Mick Jones from Foreigner used to call me a hard-hitting funk drummer. I love R&B and grew up so influenced by, Garibaldi and the Meters and LTD and, and of course, James Brown and like all your early Motown stuff. So I embraced that as much as I embraced, Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and The Who, So I've always kind of had this sort of role to my playing. It's kind of, you define funk and groove as being syncopated, and syncopation is kind of defined in the realm of sort of 16th note orientation rather than 8th note orientation, right? So I've always had that role and lots of ghost notes. And so I carry that into my rock playing. So now I do hit really hard, but there's always a little bit of roll, and there's some subtlety, and there's some nuance in it. So I don't even know how I got, where was I going with this? I don't remember.
You've got some roll with your rock.
I got some roll with my rock. I'm rolling rock, not rock and roll.
Definitely. How long did you play with Foreigner?
Wow, I played with Foreigner on and off for like 27 years. I auditioned for Foreigner in 1992 and got the gig, and that's a great story as well, because I got the gig, and then all of a sudden I hear from a friend of mine, Mark Brown, this bass player. He said, Foreigner's recording next door to me. He was at Conway Studios in LA. I'm like, what do you mean they're recording? So I call up Kevin Jones, who was Mick Jones's brother, who was like the, tour manager, assistant manager. And I said, Kevin, I hear you guys are recording, and why am I not there? He goes, well, man, I'm sorry, but we hired a producer named Keith Forsey, and Keith's never heard you play, and he's a drummer. And so we brought in Tal Bergman to play, and Tal's a great drummer. I said, look, I understand that, but can I have Keith's number? Can I call him? And, I'll be damned, he gave it to me. So, my hand's shaking. I put call the phone and leave a message, say, Keith, this is Mark Schulman. I know you never heard of me, but I'm the guy that got the Foreigner gig. I said, but if you're ever in a jam, you need a drummer, call me, man. Give me a shot. I thought, whatever, he's never going to call. So 2 months later, my pager goes off. Remember those days? And he needed a drummer to record a track for Beverly Hills Cop 3. So I came in, and he calls me up and goes, mate, Tal can't do it. Can you come and record? I said, you bet your ass I can come. And it turns out it was a new Jack swing track. So, right? So I got that whole, funky, rolling, hard hitting. So I'm playing it live. And I nailed it first take, man. It was just like the gods were with me. I wrote in, he gives me a big hug. And from that point on, he was calling me for all these sessions. And, turns out Keith Forsey's the guy that co-wrote and co-produced all the Billy Idol stuff. That's how I got the Billy Idol gig. He was the one that wrote Don't You Forget About Me for Simple Minds. So when he started recording with Simple Minds, he called me. And I ended up doing nearly the whole record. And Tal played on one song, and Vinny played on one song. And then I left Foreigner to go on the road with Simple Minds. And, so I actually, one of my videos is called Make the Call. And I talk about this story. how you cannot have any apprehension. You need to let people know you exist and put it out there always, because you never know. You need to be, people say out of sight, out of mind. You need to be in sight, in mind. If you're on top of mind with people, they'll call you because there's 10 other people that they may call that are equally as qualified. There's thousands of drummers that are brilliant, and it's not about that. It's about relationships, timing, being in the forefront of somebody's mind. So these are the things that are really critical that can make the difference between success and not success. In addition, I mean, when you show up, you got to have the goods. Like I showed up and I nailed the first take. So if I hadn't nailed the first take, if it had taken me like 10 takes to get it, he would have been like, well, all right, thanks, Mark. Great job. See you later. Then I wouldn't have played with Billy Idol or Simple Minds, which wouldn't have led to all these other, one thing leads to another, because, and you never know who's watching. You never know who's in the audience, so to speak. So it's really critical to pay attention to the nuances. I talk about passion and purpose. And, I attach a sense of purpose to every single note I play. Every note has purpose to me. So nothing slides by me. I'm paying such close attention, even live, even when I played So What by Pink 800 times, I still pay attention to every single note. And the moment I attach purpose to every note, I become more passionate about the note, because people talk about passion, but passion is fleeting. Purpose is your why. That's why you do it. And the reason why I do it is because every note matters. So this is a very interesting philosophical approach that I have with my playing. But the moment I add purpose, I become more passionate. The passion feeds more purpose. The purpose feeds more passion. And before you know it, it's like you're paying attention to every nuance and you're having a ball. How the hell else can I play So What by Pink 800 times and still be as purposeful and passionate as the first time? Because that's my job. I don't slack. Ever. I never lose my concentration. I never lose the love and passion and importance of every nuance. Because the moment I do that, I should get the hell off the stage.
Wow, what unbelievable advice. This is just
Thank you.
Full of nuggets. And back when I read your book, it was really an important time. I was looking for a book. I hadn't had stage fright in a long time. And over a course of a few months or 6 months, it kind of crept in. And I'm like, I want to nip this in the bud. And I'm like, hey, this is Mark Schulman's book. And I'm telling you, I read that every night. I read that to our shows. I read that on the plane flying to our gigs, and I'm telling you, it was the best thing that I could have read at that time. So awesome. I recommend any musician, any performer, anybody, if you're striving for some success and you are doubting yourselves, you need something, you should get Mark's book, Conquering Life Stage Fright: 3 Steps to Top Performance. I need to reread that before we start playing again, just to make sure that I'm, at the top of my game. This is. I wanted to ask you. I heard a story. I read a story about a Gretsch kit that I'm not sure who the producer was, but they would fly that around the world when you would do sessions.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
Well, that was Simple Minds, and that was, I started recording with them. Also in Conway Studios in LA, and I was using, JMO was a tech, and I was using one of Picaro's old kits. And he had those maple kits he was kind of the first one to use the 18x22 kick drum. And they fell in love with the kit so much that they could have bought 3 Gretsch drum sets. But they just started, so they flew me and the kit around the world. We recorded they had their own studio in Scotland. We recorded at U2 studio, Woodmill Lane in Ireland. We recorded in Wales. And so they just started flying the kit around. Like they flew back in the day, they had these 2 digital multi-track Sony machines, 1/2-inch digital machines, but 1/2-inch tape. They'd fly those around too. So yeah, they were so enamored with the sound, they just didn't want to lose it.
That's incredible.
They had the money to do whatever the hell they wanted. So, hey, you want to fly the kit around, do it. It's great for me because I actually got to play the same kit 6,000 miles away. It's fine with me.
In different rooms, was it
Yeah.
different? It's still great, of course. Was it different in those rooms?
Oh, every day is different in the studio. The drums don't sound the same from day to day because you have the different humidity levels and the air pressure changes. It's the drums never sound exactly the same. They might sound close, but there's always a nuance. That's why sometimes if you go, session folks know you may go to try to overdub something or play or overdub a part you did the day before or add something, and you try to go for the same sound. It's like it's just slightly different. I mean, you could tweak it, but it's just ever so slightly different. But drums are made of wood, and wood is fallible. It's very porous, and the way the humidity affects, I mean, things just change, and the heads change. They're just little nuances that change. And every room sounds completely different. And I love room mics. Like in my studio, it's all about the stereo room mic, and it's all about we can control the size of the room by the compression we use in the mix, by the release time of the compression. You can make it sound like, or make it sound really tight. So there's so many tricks you start to learn. I did a DVD called A Day in the Recording Studio that I'm really proud of, way back in 2009, but it's tells you everything, every secret that I have about tuning, miking, approach to playing, establishing parts, even about recording and the basic concepts of the recorded chain. And I did it myself. It's really kind of funny and cute. My wife plays drums. My drum tech, Mark Bennett, at the time was playing drums in it, as part of it. And me and my engineer have a fake fight over how the overheads are mic'd. Is it an XY pattern or is it a parallel pattern? And it was a lot of fun, but it's packed with a lot of great information. So
where can we find that?
I recommend it to people. And then Hudson, distributed it after the fact because I just really wanted to make the video that I wanted to make. And my dear friend, my wife's best friend, Sam Gracie, was the one that sort of directed it and did all the camera work and did some amazing editing. So it still holds up to this day because, for drummers, almost every drummer in LA, session drummer, has his own studio. Kenny, Abe, Josh, like all the cats have their own studio because it's too expensive to rent a studio and rent an engineer. I mean, I use, my engineer, Eric, does my engineering, and Kenny has an engineer. I should do my own engineering, but you put out $1,000 before you played a note. And now people don't have the budgets. And most of the stuff I do is self-financed. So I might get a track from somebody in Australia or Germany or tracks that were playing their whole record. I did a session the other day for Jeff Pilson from Foreigner, who's still one of my best friends. We recorded that actually at his studio. But I brought my own snare drums and pedal and cymbals and stuff. He had drums set up. So, but it's really great to be able to do it yourself because it's not that complex. So I tell people, just give it a shot. It's really not hard to do. Give yourself the chance to do. You don't need expensive mics. You need a decent interface with some decent mic pre's, and just give it a shot and have some fun.
That's amazing. I took a dive into that about a year ago, and it's really fun to record. I've got a few different drum kits and a bunch of snare drums, and it's incredible that what you can get just by putting the mics up and having a little bit of knowledge. Where can people find that DVD of yours there, Mark?
It's on Hudson
Okay.
Music. You can just download it. And I think the price is cheap. There's like $10 or something. You can buy the actual DVD, I think, still on Amazon, but I think it's all just downloads now. And ironically, there's a book that goes along with it. But if you buy it, you need to email me because I need to send you the book because the book isn't on Hudson, and I'm the only one that has a copy of it. So when people buy it, they email me like, "Where's the book?" I said, "Here it is."
That's
because
awesome.
I actually put together, I think, a 38 or 40-page book with the examples of what I play, but also with some really good background and information about the miking and diagrams and so a little bit of history and even stuff I don't talk about in the DVD. I like to be thorough. It's important to be thorough.
That's phenomenal. I'm gonna scoop that from Hudson, and let me tell you, I can certainly use all the information that I can get. We have some comments here. A friend of mine, Franklin Wiles from Toronto. He said, "Hi, Mark. We worked together at the ECM Cases Drum Clinic. It was a pleasure. You played our Gretsch USA 125th anniversary kit, Millennium Maple kit.
Nice.
He enjoyed your playing and your company. Frank's a great
Oh, well, thank you, Frank, and it's good to reconnect.
Terrific. That's wow. I wanted to ask you. I have a little list of some of the artists that you've played with, and well, can we talk a little bit about the Velvet Revolver experience? How did that come about? What was that like for you?
Well, that was wild because I had literally just gotten off of literally 3 years of touring with Cher, and I was going to take my first summer off ever because summer's when people tour. And I was all ready. You know, I was living in the Marina del Rey with a little apartment above the water, the boats, and I was going to have the summer off. And sure enough, I got a call on Thursday night. It's Matt Sorum, and Matt and I were friends, and Matt had seen me play with Cher, and Cher and Velvet Revolver were out, so we were watching each other. He's like, dude, I broke my hand in a bizarre water skiing accident, and like, you know, Slash is called Brian Tichy, but Brian can only do a week because he's with Billy. Brian, I play with both Billy Idol and with Velvet Revolver and with Foreigner. So Brian's amazing. So I went out and I needed to actually audition. They sent me all the songs and I went and just played for Slash and Duff. And then Scott showed up 2 hours late and Dave was there too. And next thing I knew, they flew me out and you know, we didn't even have a rehearsal. I just shredded shit out, and we went through stuff in the dressing room, and I was on stage. Next thing I knew, you know, we were co-headlining with Black Sabbath, Ozfest. You know, 20,000 hard rock heavy metal fans all going, dude, and I played. And here's an amazing Gretsch story because I called up the folks at Gretsch at the time, and I said, you know, I just need a kit really quickly. I want a 26. Well, the only 26-inch bass drum they had was the Catalina Club Rock, and it was orange sparkle. And I said, I'll take it. They sent it out, got on the road. You know, I just took like another Gretsch snare drum. I think I had a hammered brass snare drum. And so I was playing a $900 Gretsch drum set. And the tech said, this sounds better than Matt's drum set. Matt was playing other drums at the time. Now Matt's a Gretsch guy.
Yes.
So I spent 6 weeks playing with Ozfest. It was just unbelievable. The loudest band in the world. Like Slash had a stack of Marshall cabs that were all on, and Duff had a slash of SVTs that were all on, and Feely, the drum tech, would give me the tempo by having a metronome and tapping my shoulder, so I wasn't playing with a metronome. And Matt didn't even use in-ears. He had real acoustic monitors, but I was using in-ears because I'd be deaf if I didn't. I'm already half deaf. And it was an amazing experience, just hanging out with those guys, getting to play those songs. And yeah, wow.
Unbelievable cross-section of artists. You go from playing with Cher, you go from playing with Pink to playing as hard as you possibly can, very, very loudly with a bunch of guys yelling, dude. Which would be unbelievable. And playing that, how did that kit stand up on the road for you during that?
Well, as I said, you know, the tech was Matt's tech, Feely, and he just, you know, we tuned it up and he just loved it. He said the drums really held their tuning very well. And again, a testament to Gretsch. I mean, this was like, basically a student model drum set, you know. It was like a fifth of the price of the other drum sets I'd been playing, and still rocked, you know, and I loved it. It was like, wow, you know.
Yeah, that's incredible.
What can I say? I just feel like I'm there to just be of service to everybody else, and I give it to the techs and let's tune it up. Well, you know, and it was a 13, 16, 18, and 26 by 18. Orange sparkle.
That would have been actually really cool looking to see that, to tell you the truth.
It actually was. It sounded worse than it was when they first told me. I think it was before John Palmer was there. It was my buddy Tim was the marketing not artist relations, but marketing guy. And he was one that sent it. I'm like, he said orange sparkle, and I think I had to repeat like orange sparkle. But it was fine, man. As a matter of fact, I had all the guys, the night I was leaving, I had them all sign the drum, and then I ended up donating the drum set to Pink's husband, Carrie. He opened up a club in Vegas, and I donated the drum set to their club. So he got out of the club, and I don't know where the goddamn drum set is. I want it back because I actually donated it with the signed Tom, and nobody knows where the drums are. So whatever. I was trying to be a nice guy, you know.
What you have some amazing looking drum sets with Pink, and I believe that you change them up every tour. They look different. What is the process for developing a road kit or a touring kit?
Well, you know, it's interesting for me. I've kind of played the same configuration. I do love 26s now. So I always play a 26, and it's changed a little bit, but essentially it's a 26, 10, 12, 8, 14, 16, 18. And so that's my configuration. The 8 I started playing because in the Cher tour, I wanted to emulate the Hal Blaine fills. They were like, you know, I had the 8
Right.
drums, the predecessor to the Octoplus. So by having an 8, I could go, you know, and they're all crossed around, but you know, you'd play like gypsies, tramps, and thieves, and all the and kind of sound like Hal, and I just love that. It just made me happy. And I just have tried the different lines, like when the Broadcaster came out. You know, my first kit was the new classics, you know, with the tube lugs, and that's actually the kit that I have in my studio still, was from the first Pink tour. Then I played the American, the USA models, and I had red sparkle and blue sparkle, 2 kits done with black hardware, and I had the lugs offset from the bottom to the top, so that looks really cool. And then I played the Brooklyn kit with the white Stratus finish, right. And on the last tour, as I said, I played the the Broadcasters, and they all sound so different. The Broadcasters are very open and very old school, and I believe they're poplar, and it's a thinner shell. And then I've tried different heads, and each drum tends to live well with a different head. Usually Emperors of some sort because I hit so hard, but I've tried the white coated Emperors, the clear Emperors, the vintage Emperors. I think on this last kit we were using clear vintage Emperors. Work really well with the Broadcasters.
Wow. Do you get any feedback from Pink from when you get a new or a different line of Gretsch drums? Does she say anything to you, or did the band
only the color?
Anything?
I lucked out because when we did the Funhouse tour and I showed up with the stage was essentially red and black. So when I showed up with a red and black kit, it was great. And then we were doing some leapfrog gates, and I was going to need to use the blue kit. So we put it up to check it out, and she said, because she didn't like the color because it really clashed.
Wow.
So that's why ever since then I've gotten kind of neutral colors. And the weirdest thing happened this morning. My wife, for whatever reason, happened to notice a Gretsch kit. She said, the next kit you get, I love this color. And it's matte, flat black. And she actually called it sexy. I'm like, my wife is finding a drum set sexy. I damn well better get, but I don't want another road kit. Like we go out again, I still want to play the Broadcasters. I just think that it'd be nice to get a smaller kit to have in my studio. So maybe I'll get one of those for the studio. Got to talk to Andrew Shreve, my yes. Man, my artist rep, loveliest guy on the planet. So Andrew, yeah, get ready. We're going to be doing a black matte kit next.
Sexy black matte.
FYI, sexy. We'll call it the Schulman Sexy Black Matte Kit. How's that?
It's going to be in the catalog. That's going to be the name.
Yeah. Well, I had my signature snare drum, yes. And it was a really great seller. It was a 12 by 13 and 13. 6 by 12 and 6 by 13. Maple with 2 Bubinga wood stripes. And it was the Renown series. And it was I wanted a reasonably priced drum that would still sound pro. And it apparently sold incredibly well. And I would see it all over the place. I'd see videos, but there's my drum, there's my drum. So I was very proud because it wasn't about my name. It was about a drum. And that was born organically as well, because I was talking to John Palmer. I said, John, I've been doing all these clinics, and I think that Gretsch needs a satellite drum. And I described everything I wanted. He said, well, let's do a Mark Schulman signature. And I said, okay. That's how it happened. Bada boom, bada bang. It wasn't like, hey man, can we do a signature drum? Because I don't really care about that. It was, I just, I love the drums Gretsch had already. I just knew what I thought was missing from the line, and it had its run, and it's no longer made. But now there's other drums that are very similar that are just stock drums, so it's fine. So
they're hard to find used. They rarely come up used. I'm looking seriously. I have it as a saved search in Kijiji up here. I'm like, okay, when one comes up, I'm getting one. I love a 13-inch snare drum. I've used 13s off and on for years and years. But you're right. I play in an ABBA show, and I need a satellite drum to emulate some marching stuff that we do in a couple of their tunes. So, because why not? Exactly.
Well, because you're, again, the nuance. Pay attention to the detail. You want to create the detail. So good on you for wanting to do that.
Mm-hmm. I was talking to Mike Fasano.
And cause you can.
That's right. Mike Fasano and I had a good chat about that a couple of weeks ago. And he's like, oh, and sends me detailed texts of his setup and how to. He's such a wonderful, wonderful guy. And he was a guest on the show a few months back. And he says to say hello. Man, so many people.
We were texting yesterday, man. He's like, man, I can't wait to see you tomorrow on the show. I produced Mike's band called Dad's Porno Mag in 1995. So we go way back.
You were youngins.
Youngins, real youngins.
Yes, that's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So what drives Mark Schulman?
Service. Gratitude because I'm able to be of service. And I love what I do. I love to play drums. I love to speak. I love to coach. I love being a dad. I love being a family man. I love being a husband. So I just feel so grateful to be able to embody all of those personas and have enough wherewithal to recognize my capabilities and to develop them and to take advantage of opportunities and understand the importance of leveraging everything that you have experienced and all the things that you are to be able to do more. And I love to do more. I love what I do. It's like, people talk about like retiring. I mean, I'm not anywhere near retirement age, but even the thought of retiring is like, I'll never retire. I'll just do something different or do more of the same thing or just do it because I want to instead of because I need to. I mean, I'm still want to I love making money. There's no qualms about that. I just love making money, doing it ethically and doing it well and doing it with the joy and the passion and the love and the service that I provide.
That's wonderful. What is your daily routine?
I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is I literally say out loud 24 brand new hours. And then I smile because I've learned that smiling changes your physiology. When you smile, you're activating hundreds of muscles in your face. You send a signal to your body to relax and send endorphins to your brain. Then I get up and I do what Dr. Jim, my mentor, taught me, the WINS formula, which literally stands for what were your wins for yesterday? And I write down on my phone every morning, what were my wins yesterday, small and large? Because then you're actually getting yourself in the mindset of celebrating the successes that you've had. Then I stands for improvements. When you're celebrating your wins, you're more apt to look at what you need to improve upon. So then you look, how could I improve? Then N is you're forecasting your next wins. What are my wins for today? This is one of them. That's on my list. I forecast my wins, my priorities. And then S is what's the state you want to create? And the state today is celebrate life. Sometimes, some days it's joy, some days it's confidence, some days it's joyful confidence, some days it's gratitude. And then I do a workout at home. I've gotten into doing like bands and push-ups. And then it's like, make my daughter breakfast, make the dog breakfast, take the dog outside, serve my daughter breakfast, meditate if I can. I like to get on the treadmill whenever I can. And I run my speeches. I always keep on my game by running my speeches in my head on the treadmill and get to work. Get on the computer, make videos, make calls, make connections, do podcasts, interview people for my book. I've interviewed 35 people for my book, including some of the greatest drummers on the planet. Want to have the book done April or September. Work on my marketing. I have a business coach now that's helping me understand how to move my business, like instead of just a guy who speaks, to a speaking business, which is helping my drumming and just helping the way that I negotiate and leverage opportunities. I also subscribe to the Viewpoint, what can I learn today? And so I love to learn something new every day. And how can I learn it? I love to learn. There's three different ways of learning, auditory, visual, and kinetic. So I try to, toy with learning different ways every day a little bit and spend time with the family, man.
It's a very full.
Oh, and go to the studio and play drums whenever I can, at least twice a week.
That is phenomenal. And this is why you have manifested a lot of successes, a lot of well-rounded successes in your life. Not just, a lot of folks are successful at one or two things in their life. You have a lot of successes, from being centered person, being a family-oriented person, to having your business stuff together, from having and taking care of and looking to the future. And it's drummers like you that I aspire to be more like, to have all of those different aspects of my life and career. I don't want to just be, okay, I play drums, and if the gigs go away, what happens? So I wanted to have some other irons in the fire. This show is something that I did because because the gigs were going to be gone, started doing some online teaching. But this is the first kind of information that we've had exactly like this out of the 49 guests that I've spoken to over the last year or so. I'm going to rewatch this and seriously, and I recommend anyone that is serious about having success, real success, long-lasting success, to get in touch with Mark. What's the best way to find you on the web?
You know what? I answer these emails directly. It might take me a while, but it's just mark@markschulman.com. And if you can spell Schulman, SCHULMAN, I will answer your email. Any questions you got?
That's phenomenal. So what lies ahead? Well, I know you did tell us you've got lots of things. Any possible gigs happening for this year?
Well, don't know yet. Still waiting to find out. There's so much that is just not determined by the pandemic yet. I have, speaking gigs lined up. Still waiting to hear from the Pink Camp about what's up with that. I know that she wants to be completely safe and wants a very safe audience because she cares about the audience as well. So I'm sure that we'll be doing stuff. It might not happen this year, but it'll happen when it's time to happen. We need more certainty.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to be playing. We're not going to be doing any, 20% crowds. So it's going to be like either all or nothing. So we'll see.
That's great to hear.
People need to get vaccinated. We need herd immunity in the country. It's part of the gig. I know people are apprehensive. Some people are waiting. Some people don't want to do it, but that's the way I see it.
We need to.
From a scientific standpoint.
Right. The U.S. has done a very good job at rolling out the vaccines. In Canada, disappointingly, is not. I'm still waiting for my first one. So, but that'll be soon, and hopefully things get a little bit more on track. Mark, thank you so much for spending the time with us. I appreciate it. And
my pleasure, Neil. I'm sorry it took so long, but you're a gentleman. You're an amazing host, and big love to everybody. Stay in touch.
Thank you, Mark.
Give you my email. Use it. Mwah.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Cheers. Take care, everybody.